Welcome to the Limit Free Life Show. I am Michelle Perkins, your host. I bring you tips, advice, and guest stories about creating work you love. Whatever type of career or business you have or want, I want to help you find more meaning, money, and happiness. Now we are live from Hollywood. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Limit Free Life Show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. And last week I had the distinct pleasure of interviewing best-selling author, and NBC Financial editor Jean Chatzky. And I have been reading Women with Money, her latest book, and was by the show. You probably know Jean Chatzky. She's been writing and reporting on money matters for years, but you might not be up to date on what she's been doing. Jean Chatzky launched Her Money Media and hermoney.com in 2018 to provide women with information about money they can actually trust. The award-winning financial editor of NBC Today, Jean has also appeared on Oprah, MSNBC, CNN, The View, The Talk, and many others. Millions have tuned into her podcast, Her Money, with Jean Chatzky, which has received shout-outs from the New York Times, Yahoo Finance, and Refinery 29. The best-selling author of 11 books and in-demand motivational speaker, Jean is also AARP's financial ambassador and a fierce advocate for financial literacy. $4, an in-school magazine that reaches 2 million school children each month. Jean, thank you so much for being here. It is such an honor to have you. I so appreciate you coming on with me and spending your time this way today.
Oh, Michelle.
School children, and I hope I got the name of that publication right, so you can correct me if I didn't. But
we call it Your Money, but
okay.
Your Dollar works just fine, and it's confusing because we've been doing it now for 5 years, and if for any parent whose kids don't get Time for Kids in the classroom, all the past issues are available for free online. So if you want to have
you've got the AARP crowd and the little kids and everybody in between, so that is really wonderful.
Thank you.
I've admired you for a long time and really respected the complicated topic. And you somehow make it easy to understand, but also enjoyable. Like you actually want to manage your money or invest and do some things, take care of your money when you read your books. And I know it's actually, I don't know how old it is. Do you want me to hold it up higher?
Say it down So that was the book on which the debt diet for Oprah was based. And that series was before the recessions or debt. I had noticed that the amount of consumer debt that people were carrying, the numbers were just getting larger and larger and larger. So wrote this book to tackle that. When we are seeing the numbers again, the amount of debt that people are carrying in student loans, of course, but also credit cards and auto loans, the numbers are just getting scary again. And it makes me hope that
I must have been having an issue myself, but I've moved so many times, and I brought that book with me through all my downsizing and my boxes of books that went off to the library. And so that was when I thought, Women with Money, is that part of the 11 or does that make 12?
It is. It's number 11.
Okay. And so I would love, the book is wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And I've been referring it to people, including men, add for it, what you were thinking when you decided you would write it.
So the impetus was some more data. I like the data. I've been a personal finance journalist for new facts. And the facts that led me to this book were not just the soaring number of women as primary breadwinners, but the trends in education with more women graduating from college, as well as this astonishing statistic about the fact that by the year 2030, women are going to control 66% of the wealth in America. At least they're projected to do so. And that's because partners, we're going to inherit twice. We're going to inherit from our parents, but we're also going to inherit from those spouses, and it's going to put a lot of money in our hands. And we want different things from our money than men do. That's something that I learned in the our listeners and hearing from the folks who subscribe to our newsletters at Her Money and are in our Facebook group who are just talking about it all the time. We want different things. And that led me to
really, really interesting. That comes up somewhere in the book and maybe closer to the beginning. And actually, before we jump into that, can you run through the three parts of the book for people?
Yeah. So I asked to feel comfortable with my money. I want to put the emotion around money in its place. So the first part of the book is devoted to doing that, to understanding who you are when it comes to money, why you are that way. They don't kick you in the shin every time you're trying to accomplish something. The second thing I heard was I want to make my money work for me. I want it to help me tactical things that we want. And the third thing I heard was I want to use my money for good. I want to use it to help my kids. I want to use it to help my parents if they need it. Using your money to make an impact.
Right. Wonderful. And those three areas are so interesting. And I like the way you began really with the emotional part of money, because that's a lot of what I talk about. I was trained as a CPA and a business consultant, but nobody ever mentioned that. Critical and something that people are now talking about. So can you comment a little bit on what some of your findings were with respect to people's relationship with money, whether they were even aware that they had a relationship or they should have a relationship with money?
Well, I can tell that you've done this a lot, because that relationship with money, it's not a product of what we were taught. It's not a product of the fact that somebody said, oh, look, this is how you balance a checkbook, which no, but there was tension in the air around payday or the holidays because there wasn't enough. The fact that your parents fought about it behind closed doors and you knew exactly what they were fighting about. And you've got a money story. You may not know it. Here's how you figure out what it is. And then once you've got it, you can put the emotion in its place. I was actually at the MIT Age Lab for an event. They put you in a suit to make you feel like you're 95 years old, and then you walk around that way, and it's just eye-opening.
Sounds frightening, but
yeah, it is. It's a little frightening. He said, emotion puts money in motion. And I just wrote it down when I heard it, because I think the more we can understand how emotion is driving us, the better off we're going to be.
Right. And that is, I love that. I'm going to write that down too. It's played a part in my life, and I see it playing a part, and you can know how to manage it or what to do with it, but that doesn't necessarily drive your decision making, which is super fascinating. So, that's wonderful. And that the name of that chapter was, but something about investing in yourself or doing your own thing. And so, because that comes up a lot for people, especially if they've worked maybe a 20-year career and they've got all this expertise. And I found that chapter very interesting. And a lot of people will ask me, well, where do I find the money to do this? Or I can't find the money. They'll just make the statement. And you have a section on finding money from your personal assets. And I'd love to just hear, some thoughts on that. Good idea about it.
Going to be too. I found myself starting a business because I got fired. And I think a lot of people find themselves in exactly the same position, especially now, and especially people will, what's next. Right. For some entrepreneurs, and I fell into this category, you may be able to just continue to do what you were doing, but do it for yourself. And I was doing a little bit of writing on the side and speaking on the side when I got fired at Money Magazine, which they called downsizing, but we all know what it is. And so I thought about it. I actually looked for another job because I wasn't really thrilled with the idea of going out and finding health insurance. And it's determined that I actually, by picking up another couple of clients, could be much more profitable than I would have been by going back to work for some much more possible.
Right.
That's an alternative. Starting the kind of business where you need capital, where you need to stock inventory, that is different. And so that people who have to lay in inventory or buy of a setup, where you take the time and you try to save enough money to keep yourself going for at least a year or figure out where you're going to get that money. I don't love the idea of borrowing from your house or your 401k. I would rather you find the capital from other sources. The retirement plan, and then the business doesn't do so well, and then the retirement plan is gone up in smoke and they have to start over again at a point in life when that's not optimal. So I'd like to see you look elsewhere.
Savings, investing. I loved also the idea that, with a minimal amount of investing, you're still an investor. And I think there's a real mindset around that I'm guessing, be investors, or they just, even if they're investing, they still don't feel like it. Like there's something else that they could be doing that would then put them in that investor position.
I think we've all watched a little too much CNBC, and I love CNBC. Don't get me wrong. I'm a fan of CNBC, but when I ask the question, are you an investor, in a room full of women, I get a lot of half-hearted hands going up. And then I ask, do you have a 401k? And almost every hand shoots up into the air because we don't equate the two. Well, like Jim Cramer, we think investing is the same as trading, and it's not.
Yeah, I love that distinction. I hadn't heard that before, and I thought that just really clarified it for me. So whether that's a salary negotiation or as a business owner, any advice, tips, thoughts on that?
Yeah, first do your research. So that you know what the going rate actually is. You're nodding along with me. In front of the mirror. Sometimes I get asked this question about how do you talk on television? How do you talk confidently on television? And my answer, I was working at Smart Money magazine, and I had to take these stories that were 6 to 8 pages long and condense them into points that I could make in 3 to 4 minutes, which meant getting rid of all the junk until I could get rid of the extraneous information that didn't matter, and also until it sounded natural coming out of my mouth. And that's what we have to do when we are asking for money, because it's so foreign to us. Yes, it would be really, really nice to get them to throw out the first number. We know that's advantageous. Doesn't always work that way. Right. I'm thinking 20,000 more than I'm making now. And this is the reason that I need this or I want this. Right. It's about, this is what I've done for you, or this is what I'm going to do for you.
Yes, and same goes for women entrepreneurs who are, heard from the other party. Seems to be a quick reaction on the part of a lot of women.
Yeah, I think it helps to have a standard set of rates. If you have set rates, you can raise them. Right. But when you're not starting from scratch every time, it's easier.
Yeah. There are so many things that we could talk about. I love the fact that you integrate life into. So you have a great chapter on relationships and money, which I think is so important. Because regardless of what your beliefs and feelings are around money, you're working with other people who have different feelings and beliefs, and so. You have some good tips there.
If you can not only understand your own, but understand the money story of the other person that you're sharing your life with, it's going to be a lot easier. It's important to know, when they react emotionally, what's that about?
Yeah. Right, right. So, yeah, all important things and to do in their life, maybe move or make a work change. And it isn't always about the money, that decision, right? What,
No.
yeah, because sometimes we sacrifice some of our maybe potential financial health or wealth or whatever. I don't know. I'll let you comment on this.
Life is the target. Money is just the tool that we use to get there. And if we can approach it that way, we'll all be a lot better off. And it's all for Oprah. You can't have, you can't have everything. And
Right,
even Oprah can't have more than 24 hours in a day.
right.
So she's got to make choices too. The question is what works best for you. Lives outside, who lives in a suburb and really, really wants to move into the city where she could bike places and walk places and not have to commute. And the housing prices, I'm trying to remember this, but the housing prices, how can I justify this? And my answer was, how can you not? Right? We all work incredibly hard these days. And it sounded to me just by the tone, it wasn't that she couldn't afford it. It was just, she wasn't sure she deserved to spend the additional money on herself in this way. In my house, we say this is why we work. That's just because we want to spend money on them, not things outside of our level of affordability or things that are going to sabotage our long-term goals, but just, things that will increase our.
Yeah, I would totally, totally agree with that. And I think it goes back to that question of what do you want from your money? And because I ask that question of people too with respect to their career more often. And people don't actually know what they pay my bills. A lot of times it's about paying the bills. And I don't think that's a very big, it's not a very expansive answer to that question of what do you want. So, and I don't know if that's more of a woman.
Yeah, no, I think it is. And particularly, look, there are a lot of people in this country who are living paycheck to paycheck. And you
Absolutely.
need to, who would be better off if they could figure out a way into a higher paying career that paid a wage that was no matter how we pose them are difficult.
Yeah, but I do love the idea that this is why we work. So, yeah, those things that help us to enjoy our life are really would strongly advise people do with their money to be more secure and to, create the future they want.
So for women in particular, I think it's really important to get a grip on saving enough for living as long where you're going to be able to afford to live a really long time, unless you have some reason to believe that that's not going to happen for you. And that for most people means saving automatically some sort of a retirement account, investing that money has a ton of value. Figuring out the what, or the why. What do you want? Why are you doing this? Where are you going? And setting out a path to get there. With the help of those two things, if you do them consistently, they really give you plenty of options.
And any quick advice on how to choose a financial planner? That's often a question as well.
Yeah, I think ask for recommend who have financial lives similar to your financial life.
Okay.
If you can find somebody, it's interesting if you can hire somebody who's used to dealing with somebody in a similar financial situation with similar benefit plans. They don't have to learn on the job. They can interest in mind, working with somebody who is a fiduciary.
Okay.
you should be asking how the person gets paid. Financial advisors get paid in many different ways these days, and try to understand how much you want to meet any planners that you're considering in person. And my my litmus test of a good versus a bad planner is somebody who listens more than, can you talk to this person?
Yeah.
Can you actually open up and have a conversation with them? Because even, if you can't, it doesn't matter how great they are. They're not right for you.
Well, thank you. That's great advice. There's a free guide to creating the joyful, less stressed, purposeful, and yes, rich life you deserve. So I think everyone should read the book. And can you also tell us how people can stay involved with you? You've got a few different things going on.
The big one is Her Money. So if you go to hermoney.com, you will not only find our website, but click the subscribe button and sign up for the podcast and our newsletters, and we'll keep you abreast of what we're doing.
Wondering the newsletter, quite a conversation. There are a lot of career articles and things. So much. Limit Free Life Show. I'm very you and been able to that is your piece of art that you can create. Reason to think and free life so that they can have the coaching, trainings and seminars, and consulting. My signature service that really allows a person, organizations who are really looking to do more with their lives and very open to thinking in new ways about what they're doing. Clients up-level in a number of ways. For some, they start a business after being in the corporate world. For others, they have an existing business and they really figure out the key and the formula to making that business grow and take off. For some, it's a matter of really developing courage and where they can go in life. What I see also is that there's a spark that kind of gets lit, and that flame keeps growing within them, and there are things that they want that maybe that they can achieve those things. I feel very strongly that money beliefs are foundational to developing a business that can scale and grow and become the business that you want it to be, whatever level of success that. Certified Money Mindset Coach, I have the training to help people understand where their hidden money beliefs are either interfering in their lives or businesses or coming into play in some fashion in all the decisions that they're making, both in their business and in their life. The overall mission behind my work is that combination to me is a perfect recipe for making work a great part of your life. And so that's my vision, is for people to see work and money, something that gives them a place to go to develop a sense of identity and purpose and meaning in the world. My greatest hope for my clients is that they will live their life after work, and they will develop Welcome to the Limit Free Life Show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. I bring you tips, advice, and guest stories about creating work you love. Whatever type of career or business you have or want, I want to help you find more meaning, money, and happiness. Now we are live from Hollywood. Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Limit Free Life Show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. And last week I had the distinct pleasure of interviewing hoping to get a chance to have a conversation.